Hey everyone, Jamie Bateman with Labrador Lending here. Today I wanted to briefly touch on one particular exit strategy dealing with non-performing loans that can be very profitable. We're going to talk about two wins that we've had, and that's not to say every deal we do is a win. We're going to in later videos we'll talk about some duds and losses that we've had. So a lot of people who are new to note investing wonder, why would you buy a non-performing loan? Why would you buy an asset where the borrower is not paying or is years behind on their mortgage payment? I'm going to show you two case studies where they were profitable, and the exit strategy in these two cases was a loan modification. So hope you enjoy the video. So in our first case study here, we bought this loan in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. You see here the principal balance, unpaid principal balance on this loan was approximately $30,000. These are somewhat rough numbers. The interest rate was over 12%. This was a deal in New York, by the way. The monthly payment was $320. The borrowers were over 6 years behind on their payments, so they had not been paying in many years. They were $26,000 behind in arrears, so all told they owed $56,000. So if they wanted to pay off this loan, they'd have to pay $56,000. We bought this loan for $5,000, and a lot of people might say, well, they're 6.5 years behind, they weren't paying, why would you pay $5,000 for something that no one's paying on? Other people might say, well, that looks like a great deal. So let's see how it turned out. The background was that during the property condition report, when we were looking at purchasing this loan, the borrower talked with the field inspector who was taking pictures of the property and told the inspector that he wanted to speak with the lender. So right off the bat, there's communication there. Okay, so that's a good thing. That means you may be able to exit the deal through the borrower. It's always good to have communication. Can't come to an agreement without that. So this loan had bounced around a little bit. Some people don't like dealing with New York assets. The licensing can be an issue for servicers, and there can be foreclosure can be very expensive. So this loan had actually transferred hands a few times, which can also scare off some investors. But we picked it up for $5,000, knowing that there was some communication and allegedly some interest on the borrower's part to talk to the lender. Borrower said that servicing had transferred several times and he didn't know where to send the payments. I mean, that's a likely story. If you're 6.5 years behind, that may not account for that much delinquency. But again, communication is critical if you're going to go through a loan modification, which was our strategy. And we introduced the idea through our servicer immediately, and the we gave the borrower terms to consider with a deadline, and let's see how it turned out. So in this case, again, you see the purchase information, which we already presented, and then the terms of the loan modification. So again, we had a total payoff of $56,000. Well, we presented terms to the borrower to accept or decline with a deadline, and the new loan would have a principal balance of $35,000, so slightly more than the unpaid principal balance, $5,000 more than it was, but we're forgiving $21,000 in arrears. So we're capturing some of those arrears, but we presented the idea of lowering the interest rate from over 12%, almost 12.5%, down to 9%. This also, we started a new 30-year term and lowered the borrower's payment from $320 down to $282, and that's principal and interest. That does not include escrows. So we're lowering the borrower's payment by almost $40, waiving over $20,000 in arrears for them, and also requiring a $1,900 down payment up front. Some people will do a trial payment plan, we've had success with simply doing a down payment and going from there. So the borrower actually executed this agreement, they made the down payment, and they've made a couple of payments thus far. It obviously remains to be seen how this will turn out, but so far it's looking pretty good. Right now we're projecting, if we hold this loan for another year, we may be able to sell this asset for $25,000. You know, maybe $20,000. We'll see where it goes. But at the end of the day, we actually will have made up our entire $5,000 investment. I guess you see here, actually it's over about $5,700, but almost $6,000 that we're into this deal. We will have been into this deal at 1 year. We will have made that money up within 12 months. So point being, if we hold this asset for another 10 months, we get our entire investment back, and then every payment after that, $282 per month, is gravy. Or we could turn around and potentially sell it, like I said, and make a ridiculous return of over 350%. So this one still has a good bit to go to see where it goes, but I'm pretty optimistic. Case study number 2 is an Alabama loan modification. Similar story here, except that this borrower was actually paying and had very recent payments. This is a joint venture deal that we have, and we purchased this note from another note investor who was selling off most of her portfolio at the time. I would put this loan in the sub-performing category, not truly a non-performer, but you'll see some of the details here. The borrower was paying, but previously, a few years prior, had fallen behind. You know, sometimes bad things happen to good people, and I think that's what happened in this case. So the borrower, there was constant communication, and there were recent payments. There was some non-sufficient funds and some lack of payments here and there, but generally speaking, there were a lot of recent payments and signs of interest in keeping the property. So that's what you want to see if you're trying to pull off a loan modification, is that the borrower really wants to keep the property. If they've got equity in the property, there's a good chance if they can make the payments and they're not going to file for bankruptcy, you may be able to work out a loan modification. So we saw that interest clearly in the borrower's communication and pay history, and so we determined that, again, we do a loan modification. So at the time of purchase, this asset had a principal balance of approximately $53,000, an interest rate of 11%, monthly payments of principal and interest of $571. There were arrears of over almost $23,000. That included interest and late fees that the borrower was behind. Okay, but again, recent payments, interest in keeping the property. So the total payoff was over $75,000. We purchased this asset for $26,000. Details of this purchase, loan mod, and potential exit. Again, you see the purchase information there. Loan modification, in this case, we did not waive nearly as much in arrears as the previous case study. We did lower the interest rate considerably from 10.99 down to 8.5. We lowered her payment about $10 per month, and we started a new term, a new 30-year term. We also took, it was actually 3 payments of a total of $1,150 to get her buy-in and go from there. So projected sale, this one is much closer to us selling, if that's what we want to do. This borrower has made, I believe it's 9 or 10 consecutive ACH payments consistently. A couple were before the loan mod, right before, and then 7 or 8 after the loan modification, consistently on-time payments. Is that going to continue for 30 years without fail? Probably not. However, if you look at some of these numbers, if we sold this loan to another note buyer as a reperforming asset for 11% yield to that person, we could potentially sell this for probably $55,000 to $60,000. So we have in here an estimate of, if we sell the loan now or in the next couple months, over at $57,923. That's after 11 months of consistent payments. We have a total IRR of 70% to the JV partner and an infinite return to us because we have no money in the deal. If we decide we want to hold this loan for cash flow for the next few years, it's still a total return to our JV partner, joint venture partner, of almost 24%. Not bad. Again, infinite return whether we hold it or sell it. I'm inclined to sell it. We'll see what we decide to do. But as you see here, these numbers are pretty good. Again, not every deal works out like this, and we haven't actually exited this deal, but it's looking pretty optimistic at this point. Like I said, we will do some future videos with some losses and also some other exit strategies on non-performing loans. Hope you found this valuable, and feel free to reach out with any questions.